Welcome, Erik. It's great to have you here. I'm really excited the way you drive HCL software journey today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here and glad to talk about this.
Sure. So, as we know, Erik has almost like 30 years of experience now working as a director of sales at HCL Software. Previous experience with the IBM, specialty in B2B SaaS. The more insightful will be pivoting to the AI integrations. That would be my main focus. If we can tell our audience how B2B SaaS softwares are converting into the AI integrations, what are your approaches? What are the challenges you are having currently?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for asking. So, a lot of things have been kind of flying around, a lot of announcements that have been made recently. When I think about AI and AI in software, I think about it at a couple of different levels. One level is, how is AI impacting the process of creating software and releasing software? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the second place that AI, I think, has made a tremendous impact is on kind of the customer experience. What do the users of this software, and in my case, I'm primarily focused in HCL software on our commerce brand software, so e-commerce sites for both B2B and B2C customers. And so the impact on the experience, I think, is another large impact area. And then I would say the third impact area that I'm seeing AI change things is really on, I would say, kind of analytics and understanding data, and then being able to present that data and then making business decisions based on that data. So it's kind of a three-legged stool is the way that I view things. So I'll start with the software development process, and I would say at HCL Software we have a core group of development team, a core group of product management. So we're kind of following a lot of the standards in the way that we develop software. The good news about HCL is that HCL as an organization grew out of the software engineering space. So even within our services side of our house, a lot of those services were dedicated to software engineering, writing software for other people. A lot of the products that are a part of HCL software today were acquired mostly from IBM back in the 2019 timeframe. And for years, we had used HCL technologies to actually help us do the software development. So we had contracted that engineering and manufacturing out to HCL. And so the acquisition of that for HCL was, pretty simple now. So we had a very well-defined, well-developed software engineering process that we'd worked out with a lot of our customers that we were doing. And it was very easy for us to when we acquired those products, to adopt that same discipline. So we had a really good discipline process for doing development. And kind of the way that we talk about it is what we call frugal development, which is kind of the antithesis of what a lot of, I would say, West Coast in the U.S. venture capital funded software startup organizations are. But we take that approach. And so a part of that frugal development approach is, okay, now we've got new tools like AI. How do we leverage AI in that software development process in a way that develops the kind of quality product that we have to develop? We're not developing new products. We're developing, primarily some of them are very mature products. Some of them have been around for 30, 40 years. And so some of that is, okay, so how do we modernize these platforms? And so there's a lot of AI development tools that help us do that. How do we then leverage new capabilities from those modern architectures? Things like containers and Kubernetes and kind of, the movement from monolithic types of J2EE applications to composable types of applications. And so we use AI extensively in the process to really kind of accelerate our adoption of those modern architectures. So the ability to leverage things like GraphQL to provide, a level of integration that would take, months and months of development to do the integration with GraphQL and AI. We're able to set up those integrations in those environments and do them much more quickly. So it's really helped in the along the integration lines. Also creating kind of new functionalities, especially functionalities that also involve some kind of AI. So one of our philosophies in our development process is, how do we embed AI into, the classic functionality that we have? And so, for instance, one of the things that we've been able to do in our commerce platform is use AI and AI modeling and modern cloud technologies and integration between kind of the classic on-premise deployments and cloud deployments to do AI, to train models, to take data from the commerce platform, data like, customer interactions and what are they browsing, and that kind of information, pump that into an AI engine and have that AI engine do things like personalized recommendations, right? So we have 5 different models that we have, AI models that we work with clients to implement, and each one of those AI models is not a giant intergalactic LLM. It leverages LLM technology and some of the LLMs that are out there, but it's augmented by the data that we provide, and each customer's data is completely separated. So a recommendation that comes on, say, things that are frequently bought together, which is one of the models, that's all based on their data. It's the products that they sell. It's what sells together within the context of that customer. And so that's not only a way to leverage AI to add advanced functionalities and embed that into the software itself, but that's where we kind of cross over into, how is AI transforming the user experience? And so that is one of the ways, especially in a commerce environment, right? How do you get that level of interaction that they get when they go to Amazon and they see frequently bought together and they see, new items, and they see all of those things that they're used to seeing in some of those more advanced, more modern architectures? How do we do the same thing, but how do we do it quickly and within a budget that is not, multiple billions of dollars, like what you'd see from some of the biggest online sites. So that's a part of how it's changing, and that's true not only of the consumer side of things in commerce, but we're also embedding into our platform for the users to be able to begin to kind of natively do their jobs more effectively and more efficiently. So for instance, one of the biggest challenges in commerce is, how do I manage my catalog? How do I manage my catalog data? I've got 47 different, versions of descriptions and descriptive words and synonyms for what this is called, and long descriptions. And now with the advent of, things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini and some of the other, agentic kinds of technology out there, now I've got to do, answer engine optimization. So how do I have, relevant semantic information in kind of machine readable format so that I can share that information with those engines and have those engines, come up with my product or my site or my capability more often. So that's a part of it. And a lot of that can be supported with AI and generative AI in creating that information, right? So how do I create better images? How do I manage those things? So that's kind of the second one. And then the third one is obviously the ability for customers and employees to leverage AI kind of natively, whatever it is, and use that in their day-to-day jobs to be able to do it.
So what are current bottlenecks you are having in this year? How are you planning to fix it? How are you planning your transitions to recover from those bottlenecks?
Yeah, so we're in the process of a major transformation. I kind of hinted at it a little bit where, modern technologies are much more composable to be able to do that. And so the original version of the software that we have was written as a J2EE application on, at the time, Webster Application Server, which was the application server that was owned by IBM. So you start out with a very monolithic, well-connected, well-integrated piece of software, that's been developed. So you have modules, and each module works together very closely, but it's really what they call a monolithic application. So it was all kind of there. And a couple of things happened in the industry that have changed that. One is obviously cloud and the ability to kind of dynamically scale things up in containerization and, those kinds of modern technologies and modern architectures. And so one of the first things that we did was we containerized the application. So that's good, and it allows you to scale that up, but you're scaling up very, very large chunks of things. So you're not always optimized in the way that you're using your resources and the way that you're operating, because you still have a monolithic application under the covers. It's just now replicated many, 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 many times. And so one of the things that we've been looking at, what we've been doing is looking at those modern architectures, looking at what we call composable commerce and how we can, and we adopted something that, Gartner came up with, which is called packaged business capabilities. So we also observed and saw that with a lot of microservices architectures that were out in the marketplace, there was service sprawl. And there was, certain assumptions in terms of transactionally that, a microservices architect solution looks at, like, for instance, that, hey, if I have a transaction, I'm going to be able to have a compensating transaction that will make sure that it gets, fixed. Well, that doesn't always happen, right? And so that's one of the big myths of microservices architectures, is that compensating transactions always work, because they don't. And so what we really took was, years and years of transactional integrity in our monolithic application and integrating the pieces working together and doing all the backups and the rollbacks and the roll forwards and making sure that literally you never lose a transaction, because that's the worst thing that you can do in a commerce platform, is lose a transaction. So how do you take that same kind of transactional integrity and apply it in these new models? And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And so what we call it is integrated composable commerce. So you don't have to build all the connections in between everything. We're building all of the connections in between everything. We're using modern methods to do that. We're using eventing. We're using, APIs. We're using GraphQL as we talked about, to move data around and to kind of manage the multiple things that has to happen in order to ensure that the transaction is going to take place. If I'm putting something in a cart, what are all of the APIs that I have to call, and how do I monitor, manage, and make sure that all of those APIs take place. Because it's not just, shoot something out of one service and over to a service. When you're talking about package capabilities, it's managing that whole function of, for instance, cart management, right? Or the whole function of, how do I do a search? Or the whole function of, okay, I want to build a catalog and then I want to publish that catalog, in its various states with various dates, times, prices, kind of all of that stuff. And so how do I bring all of that stuff together? And that's kind of what we call integrated composable commerce, but it's very challenging. It's very challenging because, AI can produce code, but does it produce code that actually can manage transactional integrity and not lose orders, right?
It has a hallucination. That's the biggest problem with the AI.
Right.
Then you have like PCBs, which is like package business capabilities. And then if it goes weird, then it will be like a bottlenecks. So what are your plans in next 1 year to come out with those bottlenecks? Can you tell with our audience? And what if our audience already solved that problem? Would you consider this as a solution?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, and there's another issue that I'll bring up, which is one of the biggest challenges that we've always faced is, customers kind of live at different levels of upgrading, right? And many of our customers live on premise. So what we're doing is we're developing everything, or as much as we can, in a cloud native architecture that can be deployed either on-prem, in a hyperscaler cloud, or in a hybrid cloud environment to be able to do that. So that's one of the things is the services, the PVCs, everything that we're doing is cloud native so that it has the maximum deployment options, right? So that's one thing. Another big challenge that we face is, because we're not, we're only doing it SaaS, right? So you got to run what we put out there. That's great. And then I only have one version, but that's not practical for the kind of business that we run and the kind of, we have a lot of clients, especially enterprise clients, that have told me directly, I don't want any SaaS, right? I want to run this on my beautiful infrastructure that I have built. I have clients that walk out of the front of their building and look over and see the data center next door and say, that's where my stuff is right there. I can put my hand on it. I trust it. I like it a lot. So to support the most number of customers, we have to do those kinds of things. And so one of the things that we've done in terms of our architecture is we've really separated the package business capabilities kind of are, you can't change the actual package business capabilities. You can do a lot of things in between, and you can create your own versions of package business capabilities that do, highly customized things that differentiate you as a business. And they will, and then we've created an orchestration framework that allows you to, move messages between the two, to do events, to publish and subscribe, all the standard kind of, integration patterns that we've developed over the last 25, 30 years that we know are valid integration patterns. We're kind of supporting all of that within this framework so that you can create your customizations and you can do your customizations, and they'll live right next to the package business capabilities that do the functional pieces that are in that integrated composable commerce model. So it's tough because you can't just go in and add a line of code in the middle of the code. And by the way, we've always let customers do that with our code. So you could add customizations right in the middle of our monolithic application all day long. And that was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because it was easy to do some things, and it was a curse because once you did it, now how are you going to move to the next version that I don't have your code in my stuff? So that, preserving upgradability was a challenge, and we developed a method for dealing with that in that each PBC that we publish, and you could choose to use it or not use it. You could choose to use third-party capabilities, and we have all the mechanisms to if someone else develops, a module out there that does something that's whiz bang and, has API connectivity, and you can do Kafka messages to it and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's all within the realm of our ability to integrate with that. And, but if you like our catalog out of the box functionality, if you like our, we have a content management system that we are kind of putting in for commerce specifically that we call Studio, that allows you to build pages and, manage content like a content management system, or like some kind of experience environment like our own DX or TX. So if you want to use our PBCs, great. If you don't want to use our PBCs, that's fine. You can take that one PBC and replace it, and still you can use the rest, right? So that was one of the challenges, is making the PBCs immutable, where you can't change them. You can do all kinds of customization, but you do it kind of within a framework of doing customization, which is a little bit different. But all the tools, all the architecture are the very latest in terms of being able to do that. And then the other challenge is scale, right? How do you scale, as I talked about before, the monolithic application? You could containerize it, which we did, and you can have multiple instances of it, but that's not a very efficient use of things. If you're really challenged with, you need better search performance from your search mechanism. How do I have those containers be able to be, 20, 40, 60, 80 of those containers, because you need that kind of performance during your peak periods, but I don't have to scale everything 20, 40, 60, 80 times, right? So there are parts of it that you need, and you can scale up, and the old term that we used to use was, right, you had to build the church for Sunday, right? Sunday was the big day that you went in, that everybody came in for church. And so you build a big church, and the other 6 days of the week, you don't use it for anything. So what we've done is, by componentizing it, we've allowed us to scale different parts of the application that need to scale bigger than other parts independently. Now, that creates a challenge. The challenge is DevOps, right? So how do I manage one, instead of managing one application, now I'm managing 18 or 20 different PBCs. How do I manage each one of those performance and scalability? And then how do I upgrade? The nice part is we can very rapidly modify a PBC, and we're in a continuous development process instead of a cyclical quarterly development process or biannually development process. We can do, we can run sprints just like you can run sprints.
Exactly.
Custom development, and we can release a sprint and release a monthly release of a PBC if we wanted to. And so the challenge and the beauty is, okay, now I only have to deploy that one PBC, right? Remember, I've taken all the customizations out of it. So everything is going to, a new version of a PBC is going to have all the functionality that you may be using plus more. Yep. Right. And we only have to, in our Helm charts or in our YAML charts, we only have to deploy that one container. And you can deploy that container in a hot manner where you can have old containers and new containers operating together until you get everything upgraded to a new container. So you have zero downtime. So benefits there, but the management, things like site reliability engineering becomes of critical importance. Things like people who really understand Kubernetes and containerization and, and spinning containers up and then bringing them down, or auto scaling, right, of different containers. But it's a lot harder to manage 20 or 30 different, independent services than it is to manage. And that's one of the real big challenges with some of the microservices architectures that we've been playing with for the last 5-10 years is what do you do when you have 1,000 services, each one its own container that can scale independently? How do you manage that? Well, now instead of having 20 developers doing development for you, you've got 150 site reliability engineers and DevOps people managing the environment. So, and guess what? Those DevOps people and site reliability engineers are not cheaper than the systems engineers that you had, putting code lines in your code, right? So it's kind of, we're trying to manage between, the ability to have a total cost of ownership that is reasonable, with the flexibility of a modern, microservices architected, enterprise grade, transactional integrity kind of application that you want to run your business on.
One quick question, Erik, about we are talking about B2B customers. Would you mind giving me the example of your specific customers where you are like director of sales, where you are seeing that the customer is struggling with, their sales, their growth, and their revenue? How the AI will help them, and what are the challenges you are having, and what are you doing to work?
Sure. So I would say one of the challenges that our B2B customers have is that the way that B2B buyers buy now has changed a lot, because those B2B buyers are B2C buyers and have been exposed to, it's like once you, the B2B sites that are out there, or, trying to sell B2B is, if you're trying to sell in the same way that you tried to sell 20, 30 years ago, your buyers have changed, right?
Yes.
They want that same kind of interface where they can go and they can say, here's something that I want. What else do I need to buy with this? Right? That's the kind of thing that we've been, that have been coming out in B2B. Most B2C sites have already done that and done that for years. And we have trained, the consumers that they can get that. They can just see that. It's right there on the page down below. And how do you do that? A B2B does have some uniquenesses. It has some things that are different, right? You have to have contract pricing. A lot of businesses want to manage what you can buy, so there's certain catalog entitlements that you have to have in the B2B world. But a lot of what we're trying to do is bring all of those B2C capabilities that are just as important in a B2B relationship, but still maintain the uniqueness of B2B. So a lot of the way that we do things is we write things for B2B, because the B2B requirements are typically more complex. And then, we turn those features and capabilities off for the B2C model. And it's a bit of a balance too, right? Because B2B is, there's a lot of new B2C sites that are out there that are doing new crazy things with AI, being able to do that. And we want our B2C customers to be able to use those exciting new capabilities, and we're embedding it in what we're doing. But we always look at it for an eye of, hey, how can we do this for B2B and the uniquenesses of B2B, right? In other words, hey, I'm not taking a credit card, right? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I mean, some B2B customers do take credit cards, their business credit cards. Some do not. Some only do it on account, right? So I got to have account, I got to have financials. I've got to, one of the other challenges of B2B in particular is, okay, so how do I, capture the order, maybe go through a quoting process where there are potentially humans involved in it, or agents, these new AI agents kind of coming in that could, they're not really doing it yet, but could negotiate, right, on behalf of that business. They have their agent that talks to our agent, and together they get together and you do that. And somewhere you have a human in the loop just to make sure that, there's not hallucinations going on both sides. And so that's a big area that I see us figuring out. It's a little early yet in terms of AI for that, but the ability to, integrate to that back end system. So I got a quote, got a quote, it's been accepted, I turn it into an order, so I've captured that information. Now, how do I get that information into SAP so that I can do the fulfillment out of my warehouse? That is the warehouse that services that B2B customer, right? Because I have specific stock that I put in place, so there's this whole supply chain logistics piece of this, that goes in, and AI is helping us do that, right? So AI can help us in better integration. So as SAP, as Oracle, as Blue Yonder, and some of these other major ERPs, kind of agentic capabilities themselves, maybe it's the customer's agent talks to our agent, talks to the SAP agent that's our agent as well, and they all exchange the information, do what they need to do in order to be more effective and more efficient, and not have to have, human beings do a lot of manual work to be able to do that. So today, in a lot of B2B sense, they're still doing that, right? They're still doing swivel chair, what we used to call swivel chair, right? So I've got a screen over here where I get the order in the e-commerce environment, and then I swivel over here, or I go to a new window on the, and I go into SAP and I cut and paste the order, or I do whatever I do. Those are things that are going to be no longer sustainable in a world where AI is a part of what you do.
Yeah, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was amazing. We had like a lot of discussion. Erik, it's been incredibly insightful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing the journey with
My pleasure.
HCL solutions, especially with the AI innovations. And once again, thank you so much. It's been pleasure meeting with you. Thank you for all your insights, and welcome to AI Transitions.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.